So, the last video I made of this, my little simulator here, a lot of people got interested in it, and yeah, thought I'd make a video because of another Runeforged post I saw to show some stuff, not only just with what I'm doing with this, but also to show some quirks of Runeforged that people might be interested in seeing. This is going to show some things that are both interesting and may get people not to like me much, but we'll see how this goes. Now, something to keep in mind about Runeforged is, yes, in certain conditions, it's actually very good. I'm not going to argue that. The post I saw was about what gods Runeforged was good for. The post was looking at it from the perspective of what abilities it would work well with. And the post was actually very good. And I'm not going to argue with that. Certain gods definitely have abilities that would make it look good. My only issue with it is that some of those abilities, the person was ignoring the fact that you have to hit someone twice to make it really good. Cupid's one of those ones which I was scratching my head over. One or two of them. There's a few other gods there that was making me wonder. But yeah, for the most part, I'm going to skip over that because it's not important for what I'm going to show. What I'm going to show here is what most people are concentrating on, which is when you've got Frostbound and Runeforged combined together. These two are what most people are seeing and considering. By themselves, I can see a lot of benefit to them. As a lot of people have pointed out, with Frostbound you both get a slow on the enemy, as well as they can't attack as fast, which for an ADC is very good. Now, yeah, it's good. If you do a nice build along with it, and Kins is the one that most people are going for, which I'm going to explain something a little bit later here. But if you go along with Kins and a few other items, you get an early run-up that's fairly good. I'm going to just go throw some items in here real quick. And by the time you get a full build, you also have Flutter fully leveled up. And as you can see, you get okay DPS and it's fairly cheap. Because of that, you get a nice, you get your build up fairly quickly and nicely. The only thing that I keep running into with this, and which I've pointed out, is that you're going to hit the problem of a relatively low amount of damage that you're putting out. There's a number of problems with this, and if I jump to another god it'll become more obvious why. So, a lot of gods are using this, or a lot of people are using this on whatever god they want. And on that mark, ignore these two for now. They're there for a specific reason, and I'll show why later. But that problem has to do with Kins. Kins does a fairly flat amount of damage based on your enemy's life. Because of that, it's actually fairly weak unless you have a high attack speed. So if Cupid didn't have this, you'll notice that your DPS drops because you don't have a really high attack speed. So yeah, I have some question marks here and there about if Kins is good in this build or not, especially if you're going something different than ASI or ASI or however you want to pronounce that. So I do question some of the options here and there. I mean, probably going something like Executioner, as you can see, would be a lot better. Yeah, you're going to have to stack more, but the higher DPS or the higher attack speed will give you more DPS. So you have to be careful when you're building like this. You're not going to do so well unless you have higher attack speed to give you more attacks. So Kins will put out more damage for you. So that's something to keep in mind with this, and something which I keep wondering why people take Titan's Bane when they've got Kins. Yeah, you're going to start out with less damage for the first few hits, but the higher amount of hits you're going to get with it is actually higher DPS overall. So, moving along from there though, yeah, as long as you're careful about things like that, this is not a bad build if you're looking to get your power out quicker than the other team. It's not a bad idea. There's definitely no doubt about that, especially since a lot of crit builds are very expensive. And until you get that crit out, you're going to be fairly weak. Now, directly related to that is people have been saying that certain gods are more powerful with this, and I'm not going to argue that. The god that's going to have it the easiest and is definitely Keranos. Now if we start over from scratch and we say he's going with something like this, you don't have to go Frostbound, because as you can see, he's just already getting the benefits from this, because he's got the slow up constantly already. That's without having to do any real work. I mean, heck, even without that, he's got the timer up all the time. So, you can, from there, build how you want. Which, unfortunately, he does have a slow attack speed, so you probably do want to build a lot of attack speed to get more benefit out of Kins if you're going that route. I mean, it's something you're going to pretty much be stuck doing. Probably something like, I'll say, Crusher would be your best bet to get a high attack speed. Or to get higher DPS. There's a problem with this. That problem is, well, with a build like this, you're already really high on the production reduction. I mean, your person's already down from 60 down to only a little over 8 protection left. Let's say you got someone who's stacking some more protection, so we can actually show this. God, I gotta fix that bug. Here's the thing though. Watch your DPS if I don't use this, and without changing the build. You're going to go from 631 to 675 using Fall. This is the problem with Runeforged. In a lot of cases, you can do more damage if you don't use its bonus on a lot of gods. It sounds weird, but here's the thing about it. A 15% increases your damage, and you need to be doing higher damage to get more benefit from it. And that's the problem with most of these builds, is they do such low damage that you're not getting as much benefit as you could from it. Which came back to a discussion me and someone else had really quick. Which was that in order to get the most benefit out of it, you needed something that did more damage. I mean, sounds pretty obvious. So we got discussing about, well, you could use Poison Star. Gives you actually more benefit than Frostbound does, but it's a little harder to get off. The benefit, of course, is the slow, plus you get minus 20% damage done by the person on the receiving end. If you use Wind Demon, you get, well, what is it? 20% faster attack speed, and you also get to move quicker. These two combined together give you a pretty huge benefit, because you move faster and your enemy moves slower. Where's where you run into an issue though. In order to get this up, you already have 4 items, so you can only use 2 more. It's hard to get a high enough crit for this to be a real benefit. So you've got to kind of play careful with the rest of this. Now, because of this, you've only got a few real options. You could try and get higher attack speed. So you could say jump over to Cupid, get his attack speed buff, so you're even higher yet. and then say go for this to get even higher, and then that. You notice there's no negative sign really appearing there, and just to be nice and really show this even closer, you're not going to see me doing this. I've actually got the debug running, and you can't see it, but it allows me to set the speed. Oh, now you can see me changing the speed. But if you notice, you're seeing the slow timer go down to 0 on occasion. But if you notice, it's only occasionally happening, and it comes down to the number of times you get in crits are usually high enough that it's not happening all that often. And now it is happening, I'm not going to argue that. So sometimes you're not going to be able to have the benefit of Runeforged up. But still not doing that great, so you've got to give up somewhere else. So you could drop ASI and lose the benefit of higher sustain and go for Kins. And then your DPS does go way up. So you actually have a tough choice to make in cases like this. You go for higher sustain or more power, because another option is you could drop Executioner and go for ASI. Once again, you're giving up some damage for more sustain. It's something you gotta make a decision on with this sort of build. More sustain or more damage. So, there are ways to make it work. Unfortunately, going for the maximum damage it's not a pretty choice to have to make. And this is something that we ran into in that discussion. But in the process of that discussion, an interesting option came up. And it's the reason why you're seeing these names here. It made me decide to add something into here, which is probably not going to be in the final version of this because of a bug that I still can't find the solution to. And that bug is that occasionally, if I go back and forth in a certain way, it crashes. And yes, you are seeing Erlang Shen and Daji here. So, Erlang Shen. His dog can crit. It's not a huge crit, but the dog can crit also, and if the dog crits, gives you all the benefits. It was an interesting idea, so I figured I'd give it a try. If you notice by itself, with no other buffs, I better do this too. I'll actually show you the real how this is actually working nicely. You notice, even without anything else giving any more benefit, the number of times this is dropping down to 0 or below is far less. And this is without anything else helping. So if we start putting on other things to make those work, then, well, I mean, what do I want to go for here? Sustain or more damage? It's really up to the player how they want to go. But if you notice, it's got even less of a chance of going under. It turns out that Erlang Shen is one of those gods that can get a lot of benefit out of this if you're going for a pure damage build. I'm not saying this is a good idea on Erlang Shen, because obviously you're giving up all your chances of protection. And also, obviously, all your sustain. But the point here is this is one of those gods where if you really want to take a chance, you might be able to get away with using Runeforged and the crit trick to get a huge benefit. There is also the choice of giving up all of that and building in, say, something like Shifter Shield and other defensive items I don't have listed here. I mean, we could go for stone cutters and all that. But you get the idea. Because of your dog, you have a good chance of having a 100% uptime of these two in a fight. Once again, though, I'm not saying this is a good idea. Just, it might be an option. Something I would, if someone wants to go digging into it more, I say feel free to. I mean, you can see that, yes, it is falling off sometimes, even with the dog helping. But I ran into an even more interesting idea that I'm questioning even more. Now, before I do this, please, please, please keep in mind, I'm one of the people that said very early in the PTS, people who were playing Daji as an auto-attack god were playing her wrong. I'm one of those people who pointed out that you want to build her with a lot of attack power. And to make this point even more clear, yes, I do use a build that a number of people who do very well with her also use something very similar to, so the build I'm about to show you is not a good idea. But this is to show you something of a quirk of hers. Her attack speed her base attack speed at maximum level is actually fairly good. It's actually very high. It's one of the highest base attack speeds I've seen at level 20. But me being me and my curiosity getting the better of me, I decided to go digging around and seeing how she would do using the Frostbound and Runeforged build. I mean, yeah, why not? It's, like I said, it's a quirk of mine. I get curious. So, and you can see the fact I just clicked on Odysseus's bow, why I'm saying, no, don't think this is a good build, and I don't. But what caught me off guard, let me turn this back to what it should be. What caught me off guard, and this is actually the DPS her torture blades actually do. But what caught me off guard is how cheap this build is and the DPS she does with her auto attacks. It caught me off guard because it's actually doing fairly well. I obviously don't have her abilities damage in yet. But yeah, this caught me off guard quite thoroughly. I mean, if you're going against a squishy with her on this build, you can see that she's going to take them out even quicker. I was really shocked. I mean, this is without using any of her special abilities. She can take someone out in less than 2 seconds. Once again, it's not a build I would suggest normally, especially since, you know, as I had demonstrated in the previous video, not a good one, and I probably should come right out and say, no, don't look at my previous video, the very first one I put out where I have a bad build. But that build was meant to show what it looks like when you give her a lot of power. But as this shows, yeah, there is some build you can put on her because of that really unusually high attack speed where she does a lot of auto attacks damage. It's probably a very bad build. I have tried it out versus the AI, and early on, to put it bluntly, you suck. Later on, you don't do so bad. But that's against the AI, and I'm hesitant to try this in a real game because I don't want to ruin other people's time. If someone wants to actually give this a try, feel free to. Feel free to. But, yeah, this is about... I mean, there's a higher DPS build I could show you real quick, and I probably should. But it's very expensive. In fact, let's do this real quick. You're going to see why I was saying... If you want to see a really high DPS build, there you go, over 1,000 and going up. It varies a little bit because it's still figuring out the amount of damage of everything, including the crits. But if you notice, yes, you can do even more damage with this one. It's got nothing to do with Kins in this case. But that's just because of doing a butt ton of crits. If you'll notice, it's also very expensive. So, yeah, I have played with this one, and yeah, you really can take people down very quick. But once again, no, it's not a good build. It's just too expensive. Of course, you could do like this and do almost as much damage. So yeah, there's a number of ways you can quirk. You can change this one around if you want to make it a little bit cheaper. And this way you get some sustain. So yeah, it's kind of interesting the things you can do. Just keep in mind here that a lot of these builds aren't good ideas. These ones that are auto attack on are, yes, you can get her really high. No, they're generally bad ideas because they take so long to build up to get her to a really high auto attack speed that you're just never going to be able to get high enough. You're basically an ADC that requires melee. It's a bad, bad idea. Go with the usual build you see, which is to get her abilities up high enough to do enough damage. It's a much better idea. But, like I said, I thought I'd show you some of the things I can do with this. Because, you know, sometimes you find interesting things out. You know, some of the amusing things I've found out that work, like my annoyance build with this bugger. Which, of course, I can never remember all these ones. The annoyance build on Cupid. Something I do in Arena when I'm bored. The whole idea behind this is, in Arena, quite often people don't know you need to clear minions. Hence you got Odysseus's bow. You generally need something after you get a kill to survive, since you've got a bunch of people around you trying to kill you. You generally want to get your abilities off more often. You still need something to make you be able to survive better. But your attack speed needs to generally be high. The reason why I keep it is, especially early on, you're not going to be doing much with this build. It is a little on the expensive side. But the reason it's the annoyance build is you're trying to just get off a lot of your max heart bombs so you can just stun people. I mean, I'm usually not trying early on to get kills. I'm just stunning, setting up more kills for my team. And usually by the end, though, I am max damage, and it's unusual for me also to be on the high end of kills. It's just at the start I'm not finding it. But the annoyance build actually works fairly well. Usually Kins is the last item I get, and that's when I start killing people. But, you know, it's something that I do use, and it does work fairly well. And as I've said before, Cupid was my first diamond, so it's a god I know how to use very well. But there's other gods that I've used similar ideas on, and use this to figure out other ways to abuse. I mean, you know, using Amazon Cobb, being able to change things as I want, like figuring out how his high will affect him at different levels as he goes up. All of these give me different ideas, different ways of trying out different things. All of them are available to me. I mean, at max level Hive, at level 20, I mean, you almost don't need an attack speed item, even though it doesn't hurt. So I can use this to figure out a lot of stuff. These other stuff, putting in melee characters is a little hard because you do need a lot of defensive items, and as you can see, just putting in DPS stuff has almost got me maxed out. And yeah, there's a reason I'm going over here before doing this. Mages are so heavily dependent on their abilities, and how all of these act is so hard to put in that I'm still not certain if I will do this. And that bug I was talking about, and the reason why I'm being careful and always going back here first before jumping to another one, is because there's a crash bug, and I may remove the ability to do this before I re-release this simulator. Now, that said, I can set it up so that just by default goes to one of these and just put out 3 separate simulators that have these as all separate stuff. I still haven't decided, though. But as you can see, even mages is in here. I mean, Kukulkan is the mage that I've probably played the most. So, you know, I kind of know what I'm doing on him, even though I don't play him quite like most or most cool cons do is more than one has found to their dismay. Yeah, because, you know, you can put up a lot of spells at once. It tends to mess with you. Where is that last item? That's the there it is. So when you can pull out this much, yeah, it messes with people. When you are putting out a Zephyr every 4 seconds, or your ult every 48 seconds, it's pretty good. But, like I said, most people go with a slightly different build. I'm going with one where I can clear a lane and then also drop a whirlwind on them. Different build, but it works for me. Anyways, this is just showing all the different stuff I can do with this nowadays. I still got a lot of work to do. I mean, putting in a lot of boring stuff. As you can see, it's still showing cupids. I gotta put in the information for the other gods here. But with Runeforged put in and working, I can test a lot of different stuff. I've been trying different things, and, well, as Carnuno showed, Runeforged is not as strong as you might think. The thing is that a lot of those better builds are also more expensive. One thing I will give credit to, oh, I just forgot his name. That's embarrassing. When I go to write this up, I'll put it in. Well, another... Oh, Duke Sloth, there we go. One thing I'll give to Duke Sloth is he did point out that because of the higher price of some items, your curve of your power is not so good. That's one thing of doing this sort of trick with Runeforged. Yeah, it'll give you more power overall, but because of the cost of Wind Demon especially, you're not going to get as much... you get jumps in power rather than a nice curve. Doing this, you'll get a nicer curve. I can't argue with that. That's why I, showed that there are builds you can do with it. With Carnunos, like I said, that shows one of the more brutal truths of it, though. The fact that even with a full build, if you jump over to that, you'll do more damage. Now, someone who can use fall and winter very quickly, alternating between them, will obviously do more damage overall, but hey, that type of person is very good at Carnunos and deserves to do a hell of a lot of damage. But anyways, I'm going to leave that off here. Feel free to make any comments you want, or to say I've got no clue what I'm talking about. Anyways, everyone, have a good one.